Back here at Sandown Raceway, the drivers are preparing to gas up and go for heat number 2 of round 2, the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. And can John Bowe do it again, Alan Moffat?
Well, he had a pretty good run.
Well, he starts off pole position after winning the opening heat. Dick Johnson in the Shell Sierra starts out at 2. Mark Scaife in the Winfield Nissan out of position number 3. Jim Richards out of 4 in the second of the Nissans. From 5, it's Glenn Seaton. From position number 6, Thomas Mazira. Good drive that in the opening heat. Larry Perkins in the Commodore starts out of 7. 25, Tony Longhurst in the BMW out of 8. Out of 9 is Mark Gibbs in the GIO Nissan. And rounding out the top 10, Peter Brock in the Mobil 1 Commodore. About 10 seconds away, heat number 2 of round 2, the Shell Australian Touring Car Nationals from Sandown Raceway. And John Bowe, I think, has got a problem with his car. Hand came out, but he's ready to go. He gets off slowly, and as expected, Richards goes straight down the outside. The problem was, though, that Mark Scaife missed the kick and was gobbled up by a whole fleet of Commodores as they go to the bottom corner.
I'll tell you what, the 2 Shell cars put a sandwich on the front of Mark Scaife there. Closed the door very effectively as he tried to leap off the line, but his teammate Richards just did the rocket up the outside, and he leads them round for the first lap. Tremendous start once again from the Nissan GTRs.
Jim knows what it's like to get up that inside line, and he knows he wants to be onto the back straight first, and he doesn't want anything but fresh air in front of him. But here, already challenged by John Bowe.
Here comes Bowie up the outside, car number 18.
Gee, there's
watch him try and get across very quickly to the left side of the road so he doesn't leave the gap open. No, he's able to hold it, and Dick Johnson of Queensland pulls it up into the 3rd spot. So it's fairly close. Thomas Mazira didn't get away to the best of start, and that looked like Peter Brock, who got away very well indeed. Scaife back in position number 6.
Okay, as we come up onto the right-left, going into the main straight, a challenge under brakes by Johnson, having a go at Jim. John Bowe's already well clear.
Isn't this great stuff as we take our Nissan race cam?
And right behind Dick should be Mark Gibbs. I think I saw him there before we changed shots. He's not there. So Jim's left a little bit of a gap on the GIO car as they break at the end of the straight. But Mark Gibbs is right up there too. A new lease of life for the GIO car. And Peter Brock in 05. You can't keep him down. Mind you, this is the second heat. These tyres have already done the 20 laps in the first heat. So they'll be conscious of trying to conserve and stretch as much out of this rubber as they possibly can while still getting on with a hectic race.
Well, certainly Mark Gibbs is giving the GIO machine a good run. He's right in the slipstream behind the sister cars. This is a customer car built by Fred Gibson for Bob Forbes Corporation. And GIO, along with Windscreens O'Brien, have put a very nice team together here and running well in this second heat.
He's certainly keeping the pressure on the Nissan. Jimmy Richards. And there's Brocky, who's made the biggest comeback since the V8 Lazarus this morning. Seaton in bad shape, back in 11th spot, so he paid the penalty. And here comes the Nissan down on the inside of Brock.
Oh, definitely. Mark Gibbs is really giving it hell here in the second heat. Very aggressive.
It was just a mild little touch. I don't think maybe an overrun. We'll see at the end of this straight. So John Bowe gets away from teammate Dick Johnson. Jimmy Richards, the next one, followed by Mark Gibbs, Mark Scaife, Thomas Mazira and Peter Brock.
Yeah, Mazira's just shot past Brock too. Brock's lost 2 places, one at the beginning of the straight, one at the end of the straight.
Well, certainly the Shell Sierras have got some pace here this weekend. They look good all weekend. John Bowe had provisional pole on Saturday night. Dick Johnson did well to win the qualifying race this morning. Got him up for a nice start on the first heat. Came in second behind John Bowe, and here they are running now 1-2 in the final race.
Brock's 7th position as we pick up on Thomas Mazira in the Holden Racing Team Commodore. They crest the hill, come down towards the S's. There's Mazira going through. And look at the little Vimmer. This thing will get quicker.
Oh, hear the brakes lock.
Yes, he's got to be a little bit careful doing that to Peter Brock.
Now, they've conserved their tyres, haven't they, Alan? Perhaps in the opening heat this morning. Think they're ready for a lash this afternoon.
Looks like a good policy. Tony Longhurst, no stranger to Sandown, and certainly knows that car like the back of his hand.
Watch this, though. Longhurst will lose out in the horsepower sweepstakes as they come down the long front straight here.
Neil
And
Crompton.
he's tucked in with Neil Crompton looking for an inside edge, and Glenn Seaton just coming from the clouds in the blue number 30 car. So it's a fair degree of traffic here.
Well, Tony said before the race that the real hope he has at Sandown, it's a power circuit. The car is really left behind by these powerful turbos and V8s on the straights. But he did say in the second heat, when the tyres on the bigger cars were starting to go south, the BMW would come into a ton. It's looking very strong in these opening laps.
Well, he's in a good position here, and he's getting plenty of drafting. He might not have the speed on the straights that he'd like, but it's not the slowest car in the field by any stretch of the imagination, and he'll wring whatever is capable out of it.
Here they come now with Tony Longhurst trying to force a way past Peter Brock to take the race cam on Glenn Seaton Sierra as he comes up to the left-hander. He's now up to position number 10. Seaton to 10 with a lot of work still to do. It gives you an idea of the fairly tight and twisting layout here at Sandown, particularly around the top end of the circuit. Once again, as they go down to Triple M. And that gap is about the same. In fact, I think...
Yes, we've got Scapes free past Mark Gibbs. Said, I think I'd like to get back up there where Jim is.
Just looking at the spread over the field. Certainly John Bowe, car number 18. Bowe extends his lead and is now 2.7 seconds, keeping in mind he won the first heat by almost 9 seconds this morning.
It's quite incredible too. He's still dipped into the 1 minute 15-second lap times on these older tyres. So the Shell cars are really using their rubber effectively too.
Well, it shows that they've worked on a chassis package which has allowed those Dunlops to work a little bit more efficiently. They have had some bad runs in the past where the tires couldn't stand the strain they were giving them. But here today, I think it's fair to say that it is a Dunlop day, and they do seem to have the Moz on the opposition.
Well, there's Dick Johnson, car number 17, and I think the Nissan is getting much closer this time. John Bowe still setting and holding that lead. But at this stage of the race, Jimmy Richards in car number 1 is starting to haul in Johnson. And Johnson sits about the same gap as probably 5 or 6 laps ago behind John Bowe.
Well, as long as he keeps his foot flat to the floor, and I don't think Dick knows any other position, he should have the horsepower based on the way we've been running all day.
It is extraordinary. Here we come. Glenn Seaton has a look down the inside of Thomas Maziel. Look at Thomas.
He locked it up.
He's out of control.
And protecting the corner. You see, he unbalanced himself, slammed on the brakes, and...
and in Wayne Park, well, Glenn Seaton may have been in the aftermath of all that.
Nasty one. That's life in the fast lane. That was definitely Thomas getting a little bit edgy, tried to protect the corner.
Yep, and he was very, very late on the brakes too, what I see.
And unsettled the car, locked up the rear, and he was wise to let it go. But that Armco was quite close to the circuit there in the S's. Here we go again.
Have a look at this on the replay. Thomas has already gone. He's off to Gowings here. And it starts to use all of the racetrack. It's headed onto the grass. There's guardrail coming up. But Seaton has gone through and just got the car tally, or there may have even been some oil there.
Possible.
Have a look, because he was sideways just about the same time as Thomas.
Now, if you look here, Thomas is really hard on the brakes, and that's when the car gets out of shape, and that's when he loses it. He's just a little bit out of shape there. He's offline.
He just waited a bit too long and ran out of ground. And unfortunately, Glenn had to spin as well. That's a pity for the Peter Jackson Sierra. Here we have Longhurst again on the back straight, being chased by
Wayne Park with a
Wayne Park.
Wayne makes a big dive down there, but that's not really the place to even think about it.
Well, he's tried that a couple of times now. He just doesn't quite have the steam. A little BMW flying through the S's. Reef around, accelerate up there. You can hear the distinctive engine sound of the BMW, a delightful noise. Well, I wouldn't call it a noise, delightful sound.
Brock up to 6th spot in the field. John Bowe still the leader from Dick Johnson, the 2 Shell Sierra teammates. And there is the gap, the visual gap, as John Bowe comes down, heading up to the left-hander at Triple M, as we take our Shell race score. And that's the order on the racetrack at the moment. The two Shell Sierra boys, John Bowe and Dick Johnson, continue to lead, but right behind them you can see that Jimmy Richards is getting closer and closer. Round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship continues at Sandown, and it's getting hot at the front of the field. They're over half distance now, with Dick Johnson running in the second spot and Jimmy Richards closing all the time as we take the Nissan race cam down to the left-hander.
Yes, you can see the acceleration off that left-hander. The four-wheel drive cars just leap out of the tight corners. Dick starting to lose it. He got a little bit tight there. That's a touch. You can't blame Jim for that. Dick had the same problem that Thomas Mazera just had. Just locked her up a bit under brakes and had to give way. That's the tires going off on him. Now your horsepower taking over, ramrodding it up the back straight, and he said, I'll have a go. If he's got enough time, yes, he can come across.
Got to get across the inside.
You know one thing for sure, Jim Richards will never hit anybody in a corner like that. He might give you a little tap in a slow corner like we just experienced, but not a high-speed corner like that at the end of the back straight. And here Dick definitely hurting. He's using the curbs everywhere. He's just losing control of the car at the pace he has to go, or the pace that Jim is forcing him to go. You'll see that Shell Sierra just slopping around a bit. Oh, another bounce and a flip, and this time Dick definitely went.
Yep.
Jim driving forcefully, I'd have to say, not ungentlemanly. That was life in the fast lane. Dick Johnson definitely losing control of his car. And by that I mean the tires just getting soggy on him, and he just couldn't maintain the pace that was being exerted on him by the GTR.
Well, that begs the question now, has John Bowe got enough grunt to and enough rubber to get it to the checkered flag? Here's the two Nissans choking. Johnson now back to 5th in the field. Bowe gets away up the back straight.
He does have a handsome gap, Mike, but anything can happen, and he will now have to very, very consciously save the urge through the corners.
Okay, here he comes up on the inside, Jimmy Richards. Bang, there's a touch. Dick goes around, Richards goes through. Jim is able to get back on the black stuff, and off he goes.
Dick will be a bit steamed up.
Okay, I think they're looking to pull a bit of that fender off, and maybe...
He's going to throw some tires on, take advantage, and I'm not going to go out there and drive any harder than I have to. Once they stop, they can put any tires they want onto it. Nice slipstream here up the front straight. Not quite close enough. The old Commodore still holding him off.
Going to take one big lick here under brakes as he goes through on the inside of Larry, so he moves up a spot.
He'd have difficulty matching a BMW under brakes, but Larry's got some good grunt out of the corner.
Larry didn't give it away.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. Let's have a look at a replay we've got for you. This incident with Larry Perkins, when Larry gets the tail out. There's Wayne Park in 35. He's jumped over the curb, and he's gone straight out to South Melbourne. So Park off the racetrack and rejoins again. Bowe leads now by 4.8 seconds.
So he'll be counting every lap to go now. It'll be a nightmare for him. This will be the longest 3 or 4 laps he's had for a long time, but still, by any measure, a reasonably comfortable lead from Jim Richards at the moment.
Oh, plenty of fisticuffs back here.
Yeah, if you want to put the nose up inside Larry, you've got to fight for it. He doesn't give way.
Larry can make that car 13 feet wide if he wants to. He's a tough customer. Tony's trying every which way he can to get past him.
Castrol supporting Larry Perkins, a good long-standing associate sponsor of Perkins Engineering. Helped him many a mile along the way.
He come out on the run down to Triple M, and once again Longhurst is just playing giant killer here today, trying to get down the inside of Larry Perkins, pick up one more spot. They're fairly critical points, particularly on the big tracks like Sandown and Eastern Creek. He'll be far more comfortable, I would think, at the short tracks like Winton. As they come up the back straight, there's the horsepower disadvantage that Tony Longhurst suffers. Perkins still in 7th spot.
The GTR showing a good turn of speed here. Scott Bowe is some 7-8 tenths slower than the Nissans on that lap. It could be involved with traffic.
Coming across the line now, 4 laps to go for John Bowe. And you're right, they are just a little bit closer as we follow this cut and thrust between Larry and Tony Longhurst.
We've got two professional drivers, and neither giving any quarter. And Tony nipping in there, taking the drag while he can. He's got a pretty nice position now. I don't know. No, Larry eases away.
We told you about that gap from 4.8 seconds Beau leading. It's now down to 3.7. So the two Nissan GTRs are gaining on Beau. He gets away from them in the straight line, both up the top.
Oh.
You wouldn't go away from this.
Tony is not throwing in the towel. He's throwing everything he has in this little bimmer. Everything he can through the tight corners. He knows he's going to lose Larry once they get onto the straights. But he is all over him on the tight stuff, maybe hoping he can push him into a mistake. Meanwhile, Wayne Park gets a better run out of the corner, and look at that.
Tony gave him the wave, said take it up the inside. Nice sporting gestures, and yet all of them driving 100-mile-an-hour plus.
As both of them got through that time, Tony felt the horsepower edge that the Holdens enjoyed going up the back straight, so he had to drop on the end of the queue that time. Now he comes out on the inside of Park, but he'll be on the wrong side of him for the next turn. 2 laps to go for race leader John Beau in the Shell Sierra, and there you can see the two Nissans gaining, and he's dancing on the tyres.
Less than 3 seconds now.
2.2.
He's counting it down to the wire, and knows that he's just got so much energy left in these tires to do just 2 more laps.
Johnson.
He's not throwing it around cautiously through these tight ones, which is where the tires get, but Jim Richards isn't fooling around. He's throwing his around.
He's certainly gaining quickly. Beau tries to get whatever rubber is left on it and a bit of canvas to at least give him some traction up the back straight. And he gets it too, runs away, but this is where he loses the advantage, this part of the circuit.
I'm amazed at how well these GTRs use their tyres, Alan. It's a 1,400 kilogram car, as I'm sure you're aware, and yet after 20, 30, 35 laps of hard racing, this is the car that's reducing its lap times.
Yes, well, that's the advantage of having 25% of the job being done by each tire instead of 50%, and in that respect they do have the advantage, but credit where it's due. They form a fine team, they drive it well.
Here he comes out of the corner, still chasing John Beau. Crowd warming to this. The Nissan's been trumped at Sandown as Beau goes right across the line. 1 lap to go, and there is the gap. There's John Beau, and right behind him the two Nissan GTRs. Now it's fairly critical.
They're close now.
Yep. As they get through the next 2 corners and then head up the back straight. Now if he can get...
And Mark Skaife has taken 2nd place from Jim Richards.
Good of now. He's got to try and get it all down and squeeze as much as he can out of it when he's got it in a straight line.
I should give credit to the Johnson engine builders. They've had some remarkable power here this weekend. They knew they were coming to a power circuit, and they gave their drivers some good engines. So the boys back at the workshop, compliments.
And besides that, keeping in mind John Beau blew an engine this morning, and they had to replace an engine in just over an hour, 90 minutes to be exact. And he has just had an outstanding day, and a good result for the Shell Johnson team, as John Beau still leads them down to the pits for the final time. Everyone standing next to the pit wall. Bowie's been chasing one of these for ages, and today he wins this one on merit, all the way. Last turn. Spectators stand in the grandstand. John Beau. Clean sweep today for the Johnson team at Sandown. They take round number 2. Mark Skaife in the Nissan finishes in 2nd, and 3rd place will go to Jim Richards. And he deserves all the accolades today, John Beau.
He did extremely well.
Let's check them out on the Shell race score. John Beau takes race number 2, round 2 here at Sandown today. Mark Skaife in the Winfield Nissan places 2nd. Jimmy Richards in the 2nd of the Nissan's 3rd, and Mark Gibbs in the 3rd of the Nissan's places 4th. And rounding out the 5, Peter Brock in the Mobil Commodore. Back at Sandown in just a moment.
Well, the Nissan GTRs once again a dominant force in Australian touring car racing, but surprise, surprise, they're not in the winner's seat today. But in 3rd place, Jimmy Richards, well done.
Thank you very much.
The Nissan, you said to me at Amaru you thought it might struggle a bit. Obviously the performance here today was better than you may have expected.
Well, not really. I think in the first heat, I couldn't see Bowie at all in front, so he was a long way ahead. But, of course, our cars are a little bit easier on the tyres, and that makes it good for us in the second heat.
OK, well done, Jimmy. Mark Skaife, 2nd place.
Thank you.
Well done. You'd be looking pretty good for the championship now with a win at Amaroo and second here.
We've only had 2. I think there's about 7 to go or something, so let's not count the chickens. But, obviously the cars were a lot better here this weekend than we thought. Being four-wheel drive, the tyres were fantastic, and in the second race we give a bit of cheek.
OK, thanks, Mark. Well done. But in first place, John Bowe. Well done, John. 2 wins from 2 starts. I must say that's a great return to form for the Ford Sierra.
Certainly is, Mark. It's a great effort by all the guys in the Shell team. They made a very good car for me to drive today, and the Dunlop tyres were tremendous, so we've really made some inroads lately.
Well done, John. To make the presentation, Tom Smith from the Shell Company.
John, it gives me great pleasure to give you this sash. Congratulations.
Tom, it gives me great pleasure to accept it. Thank you.
Great performance from the Shell team. We should have a good contest at Symmons Plains.
Thank you, Mark Osler. Points table shows Mark Scaife now the leader of the series on 57, 6 clear of Jimmy Richards, then John Bowe on 44, Brocky on 41, Gibbs on 40, Seaton 36, and so it goes. We look forward to your company a week from today at Symmons Plains, Tasmania, heat number 3.